I rescued my neighbor from a fire, and my girlfriend claimed I ignored her feelings because I didn't ask permission first. Now she's enjoying that Jamaica trip with her ex-fiancé, while everyone else keeps calling me a hero. Hey viewers, before we get into the story, please remember to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button if you want more content like this. Thanks. My name is Noah Parker. I'm 32 and work as an electrician in Charlotte, North Carolina. I don't sit behind a desk at some high-end company or walk around in a suit. I fix wiring, install home security systems, and make sure lights work the way they should. It's straightforward, honest work, and I'm skilled at it. I live with my friend Marcus, who drives for UPS. We share rent on a decent place and keep life simple. I'm reliable. I show up when I say I will, and I don't leave problems unresolved. And for 2 years, I was in a relationship with a woman named Jenna Brooks. Jenna, who was 30, worked as an event planner at a luxury hotel downtown. She didn't just coordinate events. She had this talent for making everything seem polished and effortless. We met at a friend's wedding she was managing. During cocktail hour, she approached me and asked if I knew anything about the sound system that kept glitching. I fixed it in under 10 minutes. She smiled and said that was the kind of reliability she valued. That's where it all started, and we began seeing each other regularly. For a long time, things felt smooth. I did things for Jenna I wouldn't normally do for anyone else. When her car wouldn't start at 2 a.m. after a late event, I drove 40 minutes to help jump it and followed her back home. When she needed help setting up furniture for a client showcase, I spent an— But the important part was that I didn't think twice about helping. I even sat through her friend Bethy's 3-hour birthday brunch, listening to conversations about vacation homes and wine pairings while sipping a $12 mimosa. I thought we were building something meaningful. But slowly, things shifted. It started small. She began making little comments about my job in front of her friends. Once at dinner, someone asked what I did, and before I could answer, Jenna joked that I was still figuring out my career path. I'm an electrician, and I've been one for 8 years. At first, I convinced myself she was just anxious about how her friends viewed blue-collar work, and I tried not to take it personally. Then she started talking more about ambition and progress. She'd scroll through Instagram and show me posts from her old college friends buying houses or launching businesses. She'd sigh and say things like, "We should be further along by now." When I asked what she meant, she brushed it off, saying she was just thinking out loud. I trusted that if something serious was bothering her, she'd tell me directly. Then came the Jamaica trip. We'd been planning it for months, 8 days at an all-inclusive resort for our 2-year anniversary. Jenna talked about it constantly. She looked up every excursion, every restaurant, every photo spot on the property. She showed me pictures of infinity pools and sunset boat rides. I picked up overtime shifts to cover my share of the flights and all the activities she wanted: snorkeling, ziplining, and a private beach dinner that cost $260 by itself. It wasn't a small expense, but I wanted her to have the trip she envisioned. A week before we were supposed to leave, I stayed over at her townhouse in Pine Hill Estates. It was a Thursday morning, around 6:30 a.m. I woke up to a sharp chemical smell in the hallway, something between smoke and burning fabric. I sat up and listened. There was faint beeping somewhere down the hall. Jenna was still asleep, so I got dressed and stepped outside. The smell was stronger outside. It was coming from the unit next door, the home of Mrs. Harris, an older woman who lived alone. I knocked on her door. No answer. I knocked louder. Still nothing. The beeping was continuous now. The door was locked, but when I walked around the side, I noticed the garage door had a small gap, maybe 6 inches, just enough to see inside. Jenna stepped out in her robe. "What are you doing?" "Something's wrong in there," I said. "I think there's a fire." "Noah, you can't just go into someone's house," she said. "It's illegal. You could get sued." "I'm not breaking in. The door's already open, and I smell smoke." She folded her arms and said I should call 911 and wait. But I'd already lifted the garage door. Smoke was drifting through the hallway inside. Not thick, but clearly visible. I heard the dryer running in the laundry room. I went in. The dryer was overheating, and the towels inside were smoldering, the edges darkened. I turned it off, pulled the towels out, tossed them in the sink, and opened the windows. That's when I saw Mrs. Harris collapsed in the hallway near the bathroom. She was conscious but weak, coughing and unable to stand. I helped her outside, sat her on the curb, and called 911. The paramedics arrived about 8 minutes later. They checked her, gave her oxygen, and said she probably would have collapsed completely if I hadn't gotten her out when I did. One EMT shook my hand and told me I did the right thing. Jenna stayed on the sidewalk the entire time with her arms crossed. When the ambulance left and I walked back toward her, I expected at least some relief or appreciation. Instead, she looked upset. "We need to talk," she said. We went back into her place. She sat on the couch, her hands tight together. "You went into someone's house without permission," she said. "The door was open. She was unconscious." "You didn't know that when you went inside," Jenna said. "I smelled smoke," I replied. "What was I supposed to do?" She looked at me like I had missed what mattered. "You could have waited for the fire department. You could have asked me what I thought first. But instead, you made a big decision without checking with me. You completely ignored how I felt." I sat there taking in her words. This was her response to me helping someone escape a burning home. No concern, no appreciation. Just frustration that I hadn't asked her first. "Are you serious right now?" I asked. She stood up, went to the bathroom, rinsed her mouth, and came back with the same irritated tone she used during minor inconveniences. "I think you have a hero complex," she said. "And honestly, Noah, I need some space to figure out if we're even compatible anymore." Then she said the line that replayed in my mind over and over. "I need someone who respects my feelings, not someone who acts like a hero." Those were her exact words. She said it like I had done something wrong, like helping a neighbor was meant to make her feel inferior. Something in me shut down. Not anger, not sadness. Just a clear sense that I was looking at someone I no longer recognized. I got up, grabbed my jacket, and said, "I'm going home." She didn't stop me or apologize, just said she'd text me later. I drove back to my place. Marcus was eating cereal when I walked in. One look at my face, and he asked, "What happened?" I told him everything. He set his bowl down. "She's setting up an exit, man," he said. "That's what this is." I didn't want to believe it, but I couldn't forget the way she looked at me, as if I had done something unacceptable. For the next 4 days, Jenna barely responded to my messages. One-word replies, "Okay, fine, busy." I asked to talk in person. She said she needed more time. The Jamaica trip was 3 days away. I asked if we were still going. She said she wasn't sure. Then, Friday afternoon, I got an email from the airline. "Your itinerary has been modified." I opened it. My name had been removed from the reservation. In its place, Dr. Ethan Cole. I stared at the screen, hoping the name would change if I looked long enough. It didn't. Ethan, her ex-fiancé, The man who cheated on her 3 years earlier. The one she said she'd never forgive. The one whose name I wasn't supposed to mention because it brought back too many bad memories. That Ethan. I checked our phone records. We were on a shared plan. I scrolled through the last month and saw repeated calls to long calls. 45 minutes, an hour, some late at night. They started 3 weeks before the fire. I looked up the number. It belonged to a medical office downtown. Ethan's practice. Everything suddenly made sense. The comments about ambition, the jokes about my job, the sudden distance. None of it had been about the fire. The fire just became a convenient reason. I drove to her townhouse. Ethan's Lexus was in the driveway. I walked to the door and knocked. Jenna opened it, saw me, and froze. "Who's Ethan?" I asked. She blinked, then looked over her shoulder. Ethan stepped into the hallway, holding a wine glass. He looked uncomfortable, at least. "You need to leave," Jenna said. "I just want to understand," I said. "When did this start?" She crossed her arms. "We weren't working, Noah. I needed clarity." "That's not an answer." Ethan stepped forward. "Look, man, this isn't easy for anyone." Jenna and I reconnected. Sometimes people realize they're meant to be with someone else. It's nothing personal. I looked from him to her and back. "You're going on my Jamaica trip?" I said. "Our trip," Jenna corrected. "I paid for half." "With money I lent you," she said. She flinched the moment the words came out. Ethan set his glass down, clearly trying to calm things. I didn't say anything else. I walked back to my truck. Behind me, Jenna mentioned picking up her things later. I didn't respond. I just drove. 2 weeks went by. The fire department sent me a letter thanking me for responding quickly. The HOA posted a notice praising the neighbor who helped save Mrs. Harris. A local paper even printed a small story with my photo. Meanwhile, Jenna was telling her friends I was emotionally unsafe, that I had control issues, and that the breakup was mutual. Then Ethan called. I almost didn't answer. "I wanted to clear the air," he said. "There's nothing to clear. I didn't know you two were still together when Jenna and I started talking." "You believe that?" I asked. Silence. "She told me you were basically done," he said, "that you were controlling and she needed to leave. And you didn't think to ask me? I'm asking now." "Your guilt isn't my responsibility, Ethan." I hung up. The next day, Mrs. Britson. Harris stopped by with cookies to thank me again. Then she told me something unexpected. "I saw your girlfriend a few weeks ago," she said. "She was with a man. They were kissing in the parking lot. He had a hospital ID. They got into a Lexus." I stared at her. "I didn't want to say anything before," she continued. "But after everything that happened, I thought you should know. It was before you came in to help me. So Jenna had been cheating well before the fire. The entire feelings and boundaries argument was simply a way to stage her exit while making herself appear like the injured party. I contacted the resort about the Jamaica trip and explained what happened. They couldn't issue a refund, but they offered me a $700 travel credit in my name. I asked Jenna to reimburse the $260 I'd spent on the extra activities. She accused me of being spiteful. I told her that if she didn't repay me, I would file a small claims case. She transferred the money 2 days later with a message saying, "This is who you really are." 3 months passed. I started going to the gym with Marcus and gradually felt normal again. The local story about the rescue was shared by a regional outlet. People recognized me at the hardware store, calling me the electrician who helped save his neighbor. It felt good, not for the attention, but because it reaffirmed that I'd made the right call, even when it created problems in my personal life. One Saturday, I went to the diner Jenna and I used to visit. I was halfway through breakfast when the door opened and Jenna and Ethan walked in. They saw me and froze. I nodded and continued eating. They whispered to each other for a moment, then turned around and left. I watched them from the window. Jenna looked unsettled. Ethan looked uneasy. For the first time, the discomfort wasn't on me. It was on them. A week later, Ethan left a voicemail. "Hey, Noah, I wanted to apologize. I didn't know the full situation. Jenna wasn't honest with me about a lot, and I should have asked more questions. I hope you're doing all right." I didn't call him back. There was nothing that needed to be said. I kept focusing on myself. I stayed consistent at the gym, took on a large rewiring job that paid well, and started thinking about using my travel credit. Maybe a quiet place. Maybe somewhere I'd always wanted to go. I even went on a coffee date with a woman named Ava, an interior designer. We met when she hired me to install lighting in a client's kitchen. She didn't mind my work boots or the tools in my truck. We talked for 2 hours about simple things. It felt easy. No expectations, no pressure. Marcus later told me that mutual friends said Jenna and Ethan went to Jamaica, fought throughout the trip, and that it went badly. Ethan had apparently learned she lied about when we broke up, and now he didn't trust her. I didn't look at her social media or ask for more information. I had moved on. The truth is, if I hadn't walked into Mrs. Harris's house that morning, Jenna still would have left. Just later, and with more damage. The fire didn't destroy the relationship, it revealed what was already there. It showed me that Jenna valued appearances more than honesty, that she preferred changing the narrative instead of taking responsibility, that she viewed my kindness as a weakness. Jenna didn't betray me once. She did it in countless small ways long before that morning. Like how she'd avoid mentioning my job when introducing me to coworkers, or how she'd compare us to other couples and sigh like we were failing, or how she accepted my help without ever really acknowledging it. I wasn't angry with her anymore. I was disappointed in myself for treating it as normal. One afternoon, I ran into Mrs. Harris at the grocery store. She hugged me and told me she'd just returned from visiting her daughter in Florida. She said she wouldn't have made that trip if I hadn't been there that morning, and that her daughter wanted to meet me one day to thank me in person. I told her I was just glad she was all right. Walking back to my truck, I thought about Jenna's words. I need someone who respects my feelings, not someone who plays hero. She said it as if saving someone was a flaw I needed to correct. But I didn't lose a partner. I let go of an illusion, and I gained something more important: clarity. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe and hit the like button. What did you think of this story? Share your thoughts in the comments. Personally, I felt for Noah. He worked overtime to afford a vacation, helped save a neighbor's life, and still ended up punished by someone who was supposed to care about him. That's rough. That line about wanting someone who respects her feelings instead of playing hero was frustrating. She turned a decent act into something negative, as if preventing harm was somehow a slight against her. That isn't healthy communication. That's manipulation. But the way Noah handled everything is something to respect. He didn't attack her online, didn't spread rumors, and didn't go after her reputation. He simply recovered his money, moved on, and let the consequences land where they belonged. Meanwhile, she's now in a relationship with someone who no longer trusts her. Noah made the right call. Jenna and Ethan can deal with the issues they created.